curious, fascinated actually, that if Biden is a transitional president, which he is, and Kamala Harris runs in 2024, possibly the first black female president in the history of the country, if the Biden administration doesn't deliver what you want, you're in an interesting position. Do you withhold support to Kamala Harris in 2024?
Well, yeah, I think you look at whoever the Democratic nominees are, and you begin to invest in individuals who actually have your best interests at heart. I mean, we obviously were living in a situation that was imminent threat. We had to get rid of Donald Trump. He just could not be the president of the United States anymore. And so we had a situation where we had to vote against him. But that day is over. We're now in a time that when the Democratic nomination period comes up again, we may have to make a different choice. I hope that that is not the case. I truly want to believe that Kamala Harris, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, is going to work really hard, one, to reckon with some of the issues in her past, and also because she's really been on a listening tour, gathering information and trying to understand the intricacies of the issues that Black folks are dealing with across the nation. And so, you know, I don't put my faith in any one white man, especially a white man that's over 70 years old, who we know, unfortunately, Vice President Biden has invested and been a part of some of the most dangerous and detrimental things that have happened to Black people in this country. But I do believe that we can all grow, we can all evolve, and I hope this is a moment when we're going to see something different happen, especially if we win the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. Now, I will say that when you think about the issue of Kamala Harris and what she will or will not be able to accomplish, you're going to have to start talking about sexism, which I would argue is almost worse than, maybe worse than, racism in this country. And so whether or not, even if she does a great job, the idea that she's going to be able to win the presidency is still an uphill battle for us when we look at how women are treated in this country.
Okay, so y'all just heard that right there. And shout out to Silent D Pride, which I'm guessing is short for Productions, for tagging me and a host of other people in that particular post. And what you just heard was a small interview clip from TMZ where Harvey Levin was interviewing virtually Tamika Mallory. This is actually the screenshot right here from her being interviewed inside of a car while they were at the studio. And he was basically talking to her about Joe Biden and everything like that. She had interesting talking points up until that last part, and it was actually something else she said before that. So when they were talking about Joe Biden, I'm glad that she did, because I'm gonna talk about it all, not just the part that I have an issue with, and an issue I'm sure that many of you also have. I'm glad that she did mention that Joe Biden does not have the best rapport with Black people considering his past, and she said she wouldn't really trust a 70 a white man, especially one who's over the age of 70, especially one with a past such as his, but you still voted for this guy on the strength of, or if you want to call it that, of the person who is his vice president elect, who is Kamala Harris, who too has a sordid past with Black people. And she kind of touched on that a little bit, but then she lost me when she said people have room to grow and everything like that. Yes, people do have room to grow, but see, here's the thing. Joe Biden, he did his stuff while he was a grown ass man. Really grown. I'm talking about grown. There is no more growth for him to do. He never really had to answer for what he did with that 1994 crime bill, as well as other things in his past and stuff that he has said outside of that and before that and after that. Same thing with Kamala Harris and all the stuff that she did while she was the DA out there in California. She's never had to answer for any of that. So you expect us to believe that they'll answer for their atrocities now? No. Many Black people do not mess with Kamala Harris, or Clown Mala as I call her, or Joe Biden for that effect. They only did it, like I said, because they wanted to get 45 out of office. Tamika Mallory basically said that. And I've been saying that for the last month or so. They only voting for him to get 45 out of office. They do not know any of their policies for the most part. They want a job. They just want 45 out of office, not realizing this could actually be one of the worst things that could happen for black people right now. Not saying that 45 was any better, but Joe Biden and Clown Mala are even worse. Now let's address the elephant in the room, and that's the comments that she made within like the last 20 seconds of this clip, which is what I really wanted to talk about. And that's when she said that it can be argued that in America today, that sexism is about as worse, if not worse, than racism. That is one of the most elite feminist talking points I've ever heard. And the thing is, I've heard that before, not from her, but from other women who will say that sexism is worse than racism, because they literally, ever since they go on that toxic masculinity trope, they always like to say that it's worse than racism. It's no way in hell that sexism can be possibly even remotely worse than racism. Racism has a very long-standing history that has yet to be broken. It has literally been thriving for a particular group right now. It's had its shaky moments, but it's still here. If you can still benefit off of it, hey, it is what it is. Now, sexism, yes, that can happen on a microcosm level, but I don't think it has had the effects that racism has, to be quite honest. Now, I noticed that mainly women are the ones who will always peddle that talking point about sexism being worse than racism. I got a question for you, Tamika. When you was doing the Women's March, which was your group, your organization, not organization, but your event, and you along with other non-white women were putting that together, who were the ones that came over and strongholded and took and literally hijacked it? Other white women. I got another question for you, Tamika. When you came out and openly supported Minister Farrakhan, who was the ones that came out against you and basically threw you to the wolves, which is basically what led them to hijacking your organization, which was that Women's March? Again, that was probably white women and white men. So, and it had nothing to do with sexism. That was racism. They got mad at you because you supported Minister Farrakhan, who was a person who was like a pariah to them. And then they took over your Women's March, and you and other women who were not white put it together and then blatantly try not to give you the credit. That wasn't sexism. That was racism. How dare this black woman align herself with this black man who we hate? How dare this black woman align herself with this black man that we hate, and then have the nerve to try to be our leader for a march that's more so for us than anybody else? That's probably what they were thinking. So I don't agree when she said that sexism is worse than racism. And the only reason she's saying that is because a lot of people, especially a lot of black men who rightfully so, do not like Kamala Harris. And like I said, rightfully so. That woman has locked up more black men than I can count. But they don't want to talk about her history. Why? Because it was all about getting 45 out of office. That's called emotional voting, which is what a vast majority of them did. If you ask almost any supporter of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that's what they'll tell you. Just like 4 years ago when they were talking about Make America Great Again with 45. Why did you vote for 45? Many of them couldn't tell you, but let's be real here, because they got tired of the 8 years of Obama. And they said, nope, we're not about to allow a woman to come in here. But all I'm going to say is this. My slogan for the next 4 is, this is who you voted for. Now, I had some people that who came at me and said, well, you didn't vote and everything. Like I told y'all on the live stream, I did vote. I wrote in Petty P. That's a vote, isn't it? It may not be for the candidate that you wanted or another candidate, but I did vote. I did send in a ballot that did have a write-in on it, and I did vote down ballot for the local people. So technically I did. So what you got to say about that? They're going to say, oh, it doesn't count, but it does. Y'all should be worried more about who your local people are than who the president is, because it's just your locals that you really got to deal with more on a micro level. All the president does is just sign a few documents. On a federal level that affects all 50 states. Your local deals with the state you're in, the city you're in, the county you're in, which directly affects you. But yeah, I do not agree with Tamika Mallory and her saying that sexism could be argued to be worse than racism. No, and I swear it's only women and feminists for that matter who are the only ones I know who say that. I have yet to hear a man come out of his mouth and say that sexism is worse than racism. As a matter of fact, sexism is a commentary that most men never have. And they'll come back and say, well, that's because men perpetuate sexism. Oh, it can be argued that women perpetuate sexism, if not more, than men. How many times do a lot of women get jobs over men just for the sake of them being a woman? All those HR jobs, for the most part, are headed by women, which is the ones who are involved with the hiring and the firing. That's a pretty hefty job to have. Look at Joe Biden just picked his cabinet. Well, that portion of the cabinet, all women. All women, not a man up in there. So exactly what is it exactly? Oh, they only perpetuate sexism when it's against them, but when sexism works in their favor, they never talk about it. I swear the sexism argument and the colorism argument are like two evil twin sisters. They literally perpetuate them into the same thing, but for different reasonings. And they can both be used in a very hypocritical way. And at times when they don't even need to be used. But with that being said, I'm going to get off of here. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next one.